Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. We're back for another EMBA Zapdos League draft game. You guys probably saw my first game against my friend Blitz and my second game against my friend Rob Jr. for the first 2 weeks. Right now we're sitting at 1-1. We have a special game here. This time around we're against Jake. For those of you who don't know, Jake is someone that helped me a ton with my run to the top 5 of the Cash Gang tournament. He not only was in my drafting pool and the guy in charge of it, as he's one of the admins of that tournament, but also he was just really friendly from the get-go, welcoming, and he's one of the main reasons why I'm still super interested in draft format and why I bring you these games every week. So big shout out to him. But now finally, after talking with him for countless days and being around him for a while, we finally get to play. So this is a game that I'm really looking forward to. I think he going into this was 0-2, but I know this isn't like his biggest priority tournament. He's also in a lot of other tournaments. He's just a really strong opponent. So I knew I'd have my hands full with this game. So given that, I want to get into my preparation. So you should be able to see our two teams here. My team is the same team that I've used in prior weeks, but just to go through the Pokemon again, I have Gliscor, Victini, Toxapex, Sylveon, Mega Aerodactyl, Metagross, Tyranitar, COFAGRIGUS, Rotom-Fan, and Grottle. Yeah, this is an 11 Mon draft. I only picked 10, of course, but yeah, I tend to favor the heavy hitters, the big Mons, So I kind of have like a core of I'd say 8 really good Mons, and then I know two kind of Pokemon that can be used, cannot be used, yeah. Anyway, he has a really interesting draft. I actually thought his draft wasn't the best in the league. At least the top 3 of them were really, really good. He started off with Clefable, Garchomp, and Mega Slowbro. And right at the bat, I'm like, wow, this is a very menacing core. He has all of the defensive potential and pivoting you could ask for in Clefable and Slowbro, in conjunction with a second Stealth Rocker and Garchomp to pair with Clefable add versatility and the most threatening Pokemon in probably one of the most threatening Pokemons in 17 tier, which is like the second tier. It's up there. And just a Pokemon you could see honestly going in the first round of a lot of drafts in Garchomp. He followed up with Snorlax, Skarmory, Thundurus T, Weavile, Piloswine, or Piloswine, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Gothorita, Roselia, and Pikachu. Admittedly, I'm a bit less a fan of the second half of his draft. I think Snorlax kind of adds into the passivity just a little bit. But I understand he's going for a bit more of a balance and a bulky offensive take on his team. I just feel like with the pivots, he could have probably abused a bit more of an offensive backbone to this team. But Skarmory adds a lot of physical balling potential. I think that's honestly a really respectable addition. It plus Slowbro is virtually impossible to break on the physical side unless you have something like Wild Charge Tapu Koko or maybe a Victini. Which I happen to have, but I didn't abuse it in that way. Actually, it's a special set. We'll get into that later. Anyway, Thundurus T is a Pokemon that he has that I don't really find as problematic. Without hidden power, it couldn't really break the Gliscor. And on top of that, I have Mega Aerodactyl to eventually kill it. Chople Tyranitar potentially if I want to wall it. Even Grottle does pretty well against it. And then Sylveon could also eat any +2 hit and just nuke it if it specs, or potentially be special defensive and live a couple +2 hits if it's not a poison move or life orb. Weavile is a Pokemon that he picked later on, which I actually thought was one of the saving graces of his draft, though. Not just to give him a secondary ghost answer, but also it's just really fast and has a great dual stab combination. You can run Choice Band or Heavy Duty Boost with Swords Dance. It's just very hard to switch into for a lot of teams given the speed, but it is frailer. So another ice type option, which you could also use, is Piloswine, which Loki has an amazing dual stab, but also sets up Stealth Rock, has Thick Fat. It's just a lot going for it. Goth is a cool later on pick to force Shed Shells, maybe even bring in some matchups. In fact, I feared that enough, so I ran Shed Shell on my Toxapex. But also, Roselia is just a good grass type to run things out. And Pikachu, I guess that was just a meme pick like the last two points. I'm not quite sure. I don't think it really matters, though. He was never going to bring that. So looking at his team right off the bat, some things I was scared of were Combine plus Thunderbolt Clefable, as while it can be walled in the short term by Metagross and Victini, I knew I probably wasn't going to be able to fit Sylveon with Wish. If I was going to use it, it's probably going to be Specs, just because Wish Sylveon gets taken advantage of a lot by setup Snorlax, and also Goth can trap it. So that plus the fact that Roselia could set up spikes in it, and I didn't really want to be going to my default Gliscor repeatedly because he could take advantage of that with Slowbro, Skarmory, Piloswine / Weavile, and even Goth with Trick potentially. So yeah, I just knew that I didn't want to crush in that. In fact, in general, I wanted to display as a bit more offensive a game given his team. I knew that I had the upper hand in posing more of an offensive threat, which normally, since my teams tend to be more balanced, I don't have that. But in this matchup, since he went Clefable, Slowbro, Skarmory, and Snorlax as 4 of his first 5 picks, I knew that I could actually outmuscle him on the offensive end of things. But there were still some threats to my team. Offensive Mega Slowbro is a great pick against my team, barring Sylveon. It could Nasty Plot and Flack off. So yeah, I mean, it just really did well against me. So right off the bat, I know I was doing an offensive Tyranitar. I actually was on the verge of running Dark Pulse, and so I was like, wow, special sets do so little to Clefable, even if it's physically defensive, that I liked it to actually go with a Dragon Dance plus Taunt plus Dual Stab variant of Tyranitar. At +1 speed, it outruns all Adamant, Weavile, all Garchomp, and even all Thundurus T as well, and any Skyflake Goth, I guess, as that comes into play. Although all it can do is like Toxic Grass Knot, but yeah, it was a cool set that I decided to run, and I just gave it Lumberry in case the Scald from Slowbro, Thunderwave from Clefable, or Toxic from Skarmory came out, although I could Taunt Skarmory anyway. Admittedly, I was a little fearful of Body Press Skarmory with that plan with Tyranitar, but I felt that if he brought that, then I could still force Chip onto it and then put it in the range for something like Taunt Mega Aerodactyl, which was the next Pokemon that I liked to bring. I liked to use Taunt plus Stone Edge plus Ice Fang plus Crunch. That coverage pretty much covers the entirety of his team, so even if he's got Skarmory plus Slowbro and something bulky like Piloswine or Clefable, with Taunt and just progressive Chip over the course of the game, it actually can still clean him up late game. However, I knew right off the bat that his Calm Mind Clefable could still beat potentially both the Tyranitar and the Mega Aerodactyl offensively, and since he had a combination of Garchomp, Mega Slowbro, Skarmory, and potentially strong hits from Weavile and Piloswine, as well as Thundurus T, which can not only eat a hit from me, but also deal a 2-hit KO and outrun me in return, I actually didn't want to bring Metagross, so I decided to drop Metagross and bring COFAGRIGUS. What's cool about COFAGRIGUS is Body Press is ridiculously strong with max defense, even if it's not stab boosted like, say, Como O's Body Press could be. On top of that, I also knew that Iron Defense could help set up on things like non-toxic Skarmory, and looking at his set, it's only Defogger that he could really use, and I think he's going to use Defog, so I could use Toxic Spikes, which is a big threat to him. In conjunction with the fact that he might want to be Spikes, he might want to have Iron Head or Body Press to help with Mega Aerodactyl and Roost, of course, so I was 99% sure he couldn't fit Toxic on that Skarmory. Because of that, I knew that an Iron Defense plus Body Press COFAGRIGUS with a Ghost move like Hex or Shadow Ball for Slowbro could be pretty good against single thing on his team, aside from A, Roselia, which I can't really do a ton to us anyway. I could get Toxic off, I guess, it runs that, and B, Clefable. So I actually did something really creative with this set. I made it Choice Banded, because Choice Band also boosts Body Press. So our Choice Band Body Press can kill Snorlax if the rocks, it can kill Weavile easily, and it can 2-hit KO Garchomp as well easily. It also does a ton to Piloswine, of course. It actually kills like a Choice Band Piloswine, which I was kind of saying, okay, maybe he runs the Rocks Garchomp plus Choice Band Piloswine, because it's really hard for me to switch in, but I could have ran like Protectless Score or Baneful Bulk Pex, or, a whole slew of things to potentially get that in check. So I didn't think it was too likely, but it was also just a nice other option for it as well. But yeah, I knew not only did that cover Snorlax, as Snorlax is almost definitely something he's going to bring against Victini, but also I just thought it would be great in general, because turn 1, let's say he leads Garchomp or Piloswine, depending on whichever he's bringing Garchomp, but he might not lead with it. If he brings Piloswine, it's a good lead against us, because it matches up against everything fairly well. If he's smart, he's going to want to switch out, because he doesn't want to let it take a whisk, because I don't think he's going to be able to fit Heal Bell in the Clef, because I was expecting a Calm Mind variant again. So therefore, he'd probably go Clef, because the worst thing I could do is just Nasty Plot up, and if I'm Nasty Plot COFAGRIGUS, then Snorlax almost definitely is going to wall me. Or he could potentially revenge kill me with Weavile, and I can't even kill it at +2. Or I can't even kill a bulky Thundurus T at +2, and Thunderbolt could just nuke me and 2-KO me easily. And he could whirl me with Specially Defensive Skarmory, he can take a +2 with Garchomp and potentially be... There's so many things. Nasty Plot just wasn't as smooth of an option here. So I knew that he would rely on Clefable to check those Iron Defense plus Body Press variants, because it could hit me with special attacks like Moonblast, potentially even Life Orb boost, because I was scared of Life Orb, Calm Mind, Moonblast, Thunderbolt, Soft Boiled. But so I knew I wanted to have something to cripple it. So what if I run Choice Banded Trick COFAGRIGUS with Iron Defense, Shadow Ball for Slowbro still, and Body Press, which is boosted by Choice Band before the trick, by the way. And that set actually worked wonders in the game. We'll get to it in a bit. But yeah, so I have the Mega Aerodactyl, the Tyranitar, and COFAGRIGUS. Initially, I was actually planning not to run COFAGRIGUS, and I wanted to run Rotom Fan with Nasty Plot, as it could break through the Skarmory Mega Slowbro core and potentially flinch out the Snorlax. I actually had a ton of physical defense too, so I could potentially live a hit from Piloswine, and maybe either run Will-O-Wisp or just Air Slash it down. And also I could live like a Stone Edge from Garchomp as well. It was kind of cool, but it required too much chip and too much reliance on him not bringing specific things. It also kind of opened me up to Pikachu vulnerability, because I wasn't bringing Sylveon, but we're not going to talk about that, because I didn't think he'd bring that, truth be told. Especially not with Surf. So yeah, ultimately I decided against Rotom Fan plan. It just was too sketchy against all the Ice types and the Snorlax, so COFAGRIGUS was the plan. And then because I scrapped Rotom Fan, I also didn't feel for COFAGRIGUS, I actually didn't feel the need for physically defensive or like Choice Spec Sylveon, just because I feel like I could rely enough on Gliscor plus Toxapex, which are the next two Pokemon I want to talk about. Gliscor, I knew I needed to run his Defog because I wasn't running Rotom Fan, and he has a very reliable rocker in Garchomp, rockers in Clefable and Garchomp, but also spikes in Skarmory, Toxic Spikes in Roselia, so I just knew I needed a Defogger. In addition, I also wanted to have some speed for a slow, tankier Garchomp, all offensive Clefables, so hitting 240s, and 0 speed Thunderous T, or offensive Pilot Spineless Goth. So 240 speed, and I also wanted to have Taunt on it for Skarmory, so I ended up running Taunt Ice Fang, because Ice Fang is the only attack that lets you check Thunderous T and Garchomp still, and you're not doing much to Skarmory or Slowbro anyway, so it's like fine being dead weight against them offensively, because you can taunt the Skarmory to shut it down anyway. So yeah, ultimately I want to Taunt, Ice Fang, Defog, and initially I'd Protect, but ultimately I settled on Roost because I didn't have Wish support. So yeah, and as for Victini, initially on the Rotom Fan variant of the team, I thought that a Final Gambit set could be cool, like Scarfleet Max HP, but I was paranoid that he'd go to Snorlax to scout that instead of keeping in something like the Garchomp or the Mega Slowbro, or if he ran a bulkier Garchomp, which was plausible, then it actually is more base HP than Victini. So I just viewed that as kind of a fishy, unreliable option. I didn't want to rely on his preparing in a specific way. I wanted to make sure my preparation maximized my odds of winning. Because of that, I actually elected to run, I just think of a special attacker. It had like Blue Flare, Thunder, Glaciate, and Focus Blast. And with the ability to be more accurate due to Victory Star, actually it was pretty clutch with Focus Blast because that could 3KO most Snorlax. Even if it's max special defense after South Rock, it's just 3KO. Yeah, it's a super effective movement. It's only 3KO, but we're happy about it because Snorlax is super bulky on the special side, and it's just a menace to deal with besides COFAGRIGUS. But more importantly, Glaciate is great against Garchomp. You can kill Weavile with Blue Flare, and Thunder is phenomenal against Mega Slowbro, and it breaks the Slowbro plus Skarmory core. And if it's physically defensive Clefable, which I actually wasn't thinking was very likely, because he already has all the physical bulk in the world with Slowbro and Skarmory, then that could do well as well, or at least force recovery moves, and potentially let me get in my Pex if I could trick it with Choice Band turn 1, which is kind of the whole like plan behind the game plan, otherwise I'm weak to some Clef variants, admittedly. So yeah, it was nice to have applied pressure there added, especially because I could come in and bluff Trick or bluff a V-Create and just trying to play my hand off of that and threaten to Clefable out. So yeah, ultimately running that was good, and I actually had to hit the same speed as Gliscor, so it's slower than most Garchomp that aren't like, if it runs 0 speed I'm quicker, but otherwise it's quicker. And it's going to be slower than Thunder's Teeth if he brings it, which I actually thought was increasingly unlikely that he'd bring. I thought he'd bring one of the ice types for sure, and then the top 5 Pokemon. It was going to always be slower than Weavile, but with this, it lived an adamant knockoff from full health always. It did like 96 or 94 max, and in the game that actually did come into handy, but also that helps you tank things like Life Orb Thunderbolt from Clef, an Earthquake from Garchomp, if it's not Life Orb. Even Life Orb is a roll. You can take like 2 Scalds from regular Slowbro, if that ever comes into play, although I don't think it did. And you could live an Earthquake from Piloswine as well. And I don't think Roselia can 3KO you with Sludge Bomb that's uninvested. So yeah, Victini is actually such a naturally bulky Pokemon that investing in the HP is going to have like some practical ramifications, or practical applications in this battle as well. And the last Pokemon, I've covered Gliscor, Victini, Mega Aerodactyl, Tyranitar, and COFAGRIGUS. Yeah. So the last Pokemon is Toxapex, just good old Toxapex. On the initial variant of the team with Rotom Fan and Sylveon, which was offensive, I believe, Sylveon, I was really paranoid about Clefable and also just some abilities like Slowbro's Regenerator. So I actually made it Gastro Acid plus Toxic. I also considered Toxapex for a while, but ultimately I thought it was too particular, so I just made it specially defensive with I want to say it was my Knock user because I had nothing else with Knock in this variant of the team, so I couldn't fit on Gliscor or COFAGRIGUS. I think it was like Knock with Scald, Toxic, and Haze. No, it had Recover somewhere. Maybe it didn't have Knock. One of those moves it lacked. I'm sorry. Toxic didn't come into play much in this game, as you'll see later, but yeah. So that was that. As for his sets, I expected a Life Orb, Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, or Thunder Clefable, potentially with Ice Beam Blast or Moonblast Blast, just depending on what he's going for. Could have even seen Shadow Ball Blast, although then you're running a bit riskier against Tyranitar, so... But yeah, I figured Calm Mind Life Orb made the most sense because he had enough built-in longevity to kind of avoid the Wish set. But if he wanted to build a game plan around sweeping with Garchomp or Weavile, then I think Wish Teleport actually made a ton of sense as well. But that would indicate that it was a boosting variant of Snorlax and or Slowbro, particularly Slowbro, because he wants to have one special booster in this matchup to force the hand and kind of force in things like Toxapex or Sylveon and try and abuse them with potentially getting physical attackers in like a double switch or a pivot, or even setting up on them to try and break through them if I don't run something like Carmine Sylveon of my own, which actually would have been a decent pick because Carmine Sylveon does great against everything besides Roselia and Snorlax, and you could actually muscle through Snorlax with the combination of that plus, say, Pex or Gliscor just crippling it, or Victini hits. Yeah, I mean, I could just kind of run an all-out attack assault on Snorlax and then break through, especially later on in the game, but ultimately that wasn't my game plan. But I was kind of anticipating him to win one of those win conditions between Slowbro and Snorlax if he didn't run Carmine Clefable, and he didn't ultimately. He ran Teleport, so yeah. As for Garchomp, I was expecting just Swords Dance with either Yachi Berry or Lumberry, depending on if he prioritized more ice coverage on Victini, Tyranitar, Metagross, or if he was worried about, say, Will-O-Wisp from COFAGRIGUS and Toxic from Gliscor and Toxic from Toxapex. One thing I was scared of, if he was Lum Garchomp, he could have just led and stayed in against COFAGRIGUS. We would have tricked it at Choice Bands instead of Clefable. But the more and more I thought about it, I thought Yachi or Life Orb made the most sense, especially if we ran a Wish Clef, because taking those hits is more important, and you could potentially run Aromatherapy and Clefable as well. So yeah, that was important, but also just Lum, you don't really have any ability to boost power or any scenarios to live single hits, and I think those are like more likely to come into play when he has a Status Absorber and Clef, and rest Snorlax potentially as well. As for Snorlax, again, I was expecting a curse set more likely than not, but I also thought that maybe a all-out attacker with like Assault Vest or even Choice Band with Focus Punch to try and catch Tyranitar switch in and Ice Punch for Gliscor would have been an option. Because of that, having HP investment on Mega Aerodactyl, I only need to outrun, I only outran Adamant Weavile and Max Speed Garchomp and Max Speed Thundurus T. So I had a lot of bulk, so that helped me a ton. It also helped in that I lived 2 uninvested Moonblast from Clefable after Stealth Rock, and I lived 2 Iron Head from Skarmory from full health, and Choice Banded Adamant Weavile Ice Shard after Stealth Rock. Forgot to mention that about my Metagross, my Aerodactyl spread. Also, speaking of spreads, I pumped Special Defense on the Gliscor after the speed investment. It helped against things like Nasty Plot Thunderous T with like Psychic or Flash Cannon, and it even let me live an Ice Beam from Clefable and a couple Scalds from uninvested Slowbros and whatnot. I believe that was my spread anyway. I think I also lived +2 Adamant Life Orb Stone Edge from Garchomp from like 75% if you're 2 rocks if I didn't get any poison, something like that. That might have been like from 87.5. I don't remember the calc off the top of my head, but yeah, that was important. Skarmory, I expected him to run Spikes, Defog, Roost, and then one of Whirlwind or Body Press or Iron Head. Probably Body Press or Iron Head in particular because Iron Head is good against Sylveon, Body Press is good against Tyranitar. So yeah, and both hit Mega Aerodactyl decently hard. Thunderous T, again, I thought if he would bring it, it'd be like Sub plus Nasty Plot to try and cheese Gliscor, but heavy Hyper Voice Sylveon goes through that still. So I just wasn't a good match between Gliscor, Sylveon, and having multiple rock types, one of which can Revenge Kill it really well, and even Groddle in the back. I'm never going to bring that, but yeah, Thunderous T just didn't make much sense. So I thought he'd bring one of the ice types. Initially, I was pretty sure he'd bring Piloswine because it's really hard for me to switch into, but the more and more I think of it, getting it in safely on anything not named Gliscor is kind of a challenge. Scald Pex and anything from Victini can really threaten it. Mega Aerodactyl can 2-kill offensive variants after Stealth Rock. Metagross can just nuke it. Tyranitar has a whole slew of options, and COFAGRIGUS can wall it. And COFAGRIGUS looks pretty good for me here, especially if I cripple the Clef. So I wasn't really expecting to bring it as much as Weavile, which I was expecting a heavy-duty Boot Swords Dance variant, and I knew I would be okay with that if I was able to just suffocate it and run a Haze Toxapex and keep the Pex healthy. I was actually considering Baneful Bunker at points because it was really weak to it with Gliscor, Victini, Mega Aerodactyl if it gets the Swords Dance up, and COFAGRIGUS, but I ran some calcs. Actually, Tyranitar lived a +2 Icicle Sphere as well, so I was like, okay, I'm going to be a little more vulnerable to Weavile than I'd like, but I still have outs, and if I keep Victini at full health, and I don't let it get a Swords Dance, because everything can threaten it besides Gliscor, which is Mono Ice Fang, I just needed to not leave Gliscor in repeatedly pretty much, and have him figure out all 4 moves, and then I knew I would be fine. So yeah, I didn't think he'd bring Goth, but I ran Shed Shell and Pex just in case. Roselia, I knew it was a decent option, but it just doesn't do great against things like Metagross, Tyranitar, Gliscor, Victini, Aerodactyl, and even Rotom-Fan. So it's kind of like overly idealistic. He's only getting 1 or 2 chances to safely spike up, and I've got a Defogger and Gliscor that walls it. So yeah, and Pikachu, it's just a meme mon, so I didn't really anticipate that as well. So now we're going to pause, and we're going to get into the game itself as we're 20 minutes in. Okay guys, we are now back. Sorry about that little pause there. I just had to reconfigure a little bit, and then I didn't notice it started playing. So, but yeah, we're good. Anyway, so yeah, I bring these 6 as I mentioned, and he brought the Weavile over, the Pylos kind of Thunderous T, which wasn't too shocking. So right off the bat, the game plan is to lead COFAGRIGUS and just trick turn 1 in the ideal perfect world, in the world that I think is most likely. He goes Clef right off the bat, but if he's Lum Garchomp, it could be annoying because I'd be giving his Garchomp a choice band, and that's actually kind of threatening, but I'm really thinking that he's going to be scared of us setting up an Iron defense, and potentially, or Calm Mind or Nasty Plot, or even getting up Toxic Spikes as he just goes for Rocks, or more likely than not Wisp, because taking a Wisp if you're not Heal Belt is just absolutely dire. So I'm like, okay, it's probably not Lumberry because we went through all the other options before. I don't think he's got Heal Belt. I think Clef's more likely than not going to be Calm Mind, or at worst Wishport, which can't fit Heal Belt because Teleport's really super important for getting in Weavile and Garchomp. So I'm like, okay, I'm thinking he's going Clef. I really need to get this right because Clef is like the one thing that makes this matchup hard, because I think it's a very slightly favorable to him. So I go for Trick and I get it off. So yeah, a matchup that I thought was slightly favorable to him overall, just because of the built-in longevity and the threatening nature of Garchomp and Weavile, made itself entirely favorable for me from turn 1 just because of that trick. So pat on the back here to me for the preparation, but also you can't blame Jake here. I mean, who's expecting a trick choice banded COFAGRIGUS? It's just, there's an infinite a number of things you can prepare for, and that's not near the top of your priority list. So I cripple that Clef. That is huge. Right off the bat now, I switch to Victini, knowing that worst case he goes Moonblast, but he reveals he's a Teleport variant. So I'm like, okay. I'm fairly certain that he's probably just going to go for Rocks because he led with it, so it's probably going to be a Rocker. But also, I don't think he's going to be Life Orb, Earthquake. I don't think he's going to go for it here if he is it, because I've got Aerodactyl and more importantly Gliscor in the back. So getting having a 0-sum turn like that would suck after the start. So I think he's just going to go for Rocks because it's always going to force something. And because of that, I go for the Glaciate. And it triggers Yachi Berry, which is interesting, but also it reveals that he's got at least a little HP investment, or I rolled like near min. So I just switch out here, even though I know it's going to probably switch out. I want to get my Gliscor and Defog off, and I catch the Snorlax, that's fine. I think I just go Defog here, knowing I can just taunt it after and go COFAGRIGUS and Toxic Spikes to wall it, even if it's cursed plus like Darkest Lariat. He goes Slowbro here, and it reveals Nasty Plot, which is like my worst nightmare, because I'm like, okay. The one issue about not using something like Toxic Spikes or Sylveon is that offensive Sylveon is that Nasty Plot Slowbro can wreck me, especially if it's creeping Toxic Spikes. So I see Nasty Plot so aggressively here, and it's like, okay, my Pex was pretty telegraphed, so this is probably quicker than it with a Psychic move, and he might even Mega Evolve to try and get that off. So I'm going to go Tark here, knowing that I always live a +2 Scald, and +2 Surf is at worst a roll from Mega Slowbro, and regular Slowbro doesn't kill, and I'm of the Lum variety. And if I force a Mega Evolution, that's really cool as well, because now he can't regenerate health. And he does in fact Mega, and he goes for Psyshock, so at least I'm like, okay. While that would have nuked my packs, I get my Tara, and I could probably live a +2 Scald here. And I got Lum for Burn, but he reveals Surf, and at least some special attack investment, I believe. So it kills me. That's a really great set bring by Jake. And I mean, no surprise. Again, I think he's a really good player and opponent. So I'm like, okay, I might be down a Pokemon here, but I crippled the Clef, and I know that this is Nasty Plot. I know the Clef is Teleport. That means it's almost definitely going to be Swords Dance Weavile, because having a faster and a secondary win condition in particular is really important. And if it's going to be Rocks on Chomp, then it's fully Wishport Clef, so it's not like shenanigans. It's just a matter of figuring out the Skarmory and the Snorlax. Snorlax, I'm just thinking is Cursed, Rest, 2 attacks. I guess it could be Mono, normal move, and that would be even better for COFAGRIGUS, but I didn't think he'd risk that against Cofag. Skarmory, I'm just thinking it's still Spikes and maybe Defog. Body Press, Iron Head, Roost. So yeah, one of Body Press, Iron Head, that is. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go Victini. If I land a Thunder here, that's great. He also might be scared of a Choice Band Bolt Strike or even a Life Orb, Grass Knot, / Thunderbolt. So I'm okay. I'm fairly certain I'm going to threaten it out. I do threaten it out. I hit into Gliscor. No, sorry, to Snorlax, which is fine. It only does 15 though, so it reveals he's especially defensive, which makes me believe it's a curse set. He goes Body Slam as I go COFAGRIGUS. I think that was pretty telegraph switch from me. So I'm wondering if he just doesn't have another thing to do with the Snorlax and wanted to stay in, or if there's some alternative there. Either way, I just go for the Iron Defense in case he curses up. And he brings in Clef, and then he goes for a Moonblast. He does 32. I do 25 here. That reveals he's like physically defensive Clef, or he's unaware Clef. But I don't know which. I don't think unaware would make a ton of sense on this in this matchup against the Toxic Specs and a Gliscor, but maybe he's expecting Swords Dance Gliscor and non-status packs. I don't know. It was almost definitely going to be physically defensive given this damage done, because if it was unaware and take 25, he'd have to be like offensive-ish unaware, not max HP, that is, for it to do 25 through to resist. So I'm thinking it's just physically defensive, which surprises me with Slowbro and Skarmory, but also reveals that he probably has a lot of special attack on that Slowbro with the Nasty Plot. And he might also be especially defensive Skarmory, so then it would kind of make some sense. So those are kind of observations I made, like in the top of my head. Not that it factored my next decision, as knowing he's locked into Moonblast, I just went to Victini, and that threatens to Slowbro, which he doubled out to. Now I'm just going to go for a Focus Blast, predicting the Snorlax, and yeah, this confirms my hypothesis that it's very specially defensive. 38 is actually not even the best roll. I think max was like 40-ish, but I'm fine. I know it's a 3 KO, so I figure he's probably going to go for rest here. So I use this opportunity to get COFAGRIGUS back in, and he rests. And now, with the Clefable at 75, me getting leftovers every turn, and Slowbro potentially coming in and being scared of a Shadow Ball, I'm like, okay, this is actually a really great position for COFAGRIGUS. He might actually just go to Weavile here, trying to get greedy, but I'm higher defense, that's no big deal. Yeah, I thought maybe he goes to the Slowbro here to try and get a Nasty Plot up and you won't expect Shadow Ball, or maybe he goes Clef and then tries to teleport out. So either I'm getting chip on something, unless I Iron Defense up. So I get leftovers here as well, which is crucial because I have no Witcher. And I go for Shadow Ball, predicting the Slowbro here. Actually, yeah, that was a little greedy in hindsight. I think Iron Defense is a better play. Yeah, that's why I was expecting there, but I haven't rewatched this game since it happened. So yeah, I still get 21% off there. Real City probably has like very little special defense, if any. Because I have no special attack investment. But anyway, he goes for Wishes. I go for an Iron Defense. I figured he wouldn't Moonblast there, because me going to Victini or Toxapex is too likely. And if he teleports, then Iron Defense is good against everything, because Slowbro, I believe the roll, if he's max HP, for Shadow Ball is like 50 to 60. And he's at 54, so it's favorable to me. But also, if I weaken it, I'm fine taking a Surf or a Side Shock, because I'll still be able to live 2 of those, and I could just switch out if I take 1. And just fodder off something like Gliscor, and then just revenge kill it with Aerodactyl Victini, both of which are looking increasingly good with this Asleep and this weekend and so on and so forth. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a great position to force progress here. However, he wishes and then goes Garchomp as I go for another Iron Defense, just knowing, okay, he's locked into Wish now, so no fear. Unfortunately, +4 is actually a roll in my favor if he's 0 HP, like strongly in my favor, but if he's got any HP investment, which Glaciate before revealed he at least has like 16 EVs, I think. But any more than that, yeah, it just turns it in his favor, because HP and EVs go decently far, even on a Pokemon with like a high base HP. So I do 93 there, that's fine. And now he Earthquakes, and +2 Earthquake versus +4 defense COFAGRIGUS only does 21, so I just shrugged that sequence off. I kill with Shadow Ball not to take the damage. And now he goes Slowbro here. He's risking the roll with Shadow Ball. Maybe he's got some special defense still. I only do 50s, that's min damage, so I'm assuming that's some special defense, which makes sense. Could live like a Specs Victini hit, or maybe a +2 Hex or something like that, But yeah, so now I know that I'm going to want to get out of here, and I'm like, okay, I could go Pax, he's probably quicker. I could go Gliscor, and then I could force Taunt if he slacks off and leave it in Thunder range. Or I could go Victini, and if I catch him on a slack off, then I can still threaten him out without risking the Gliscor's life. But ultimately, like, okay, I have a nice enough lead here, even if it's not a Pokemon advantage, but just like a game position advantage, that I'm going to go Gliscor and say, okay, he's probably going to Surf here and not recover. But if he does, then also Shadow Ball might be a roll, so he might be scared of that. So I'm thinking he's more likely to Surf. And I just want to get rid of the Gliscor because I don't really need it. Because if he spikes Skarmory, then he's definitely not toxic. So COFAGRIGUS kind of just wins the game. And Victini is Aerodactyl are fine too, because that means he's also less likely to be Iron Head or Body Press. So yeah, I'm fine with that. So I just go and fodder off the Gliscor, and I want to risk my COFAGRIGUS. And that dies. And thankfully he doesn't go for the slack off. So I can actually go Aerodactyl and get the Mega off instead of going to Victini and risking Thunder. Even if it's a more than 70% accurate Thunder, I go for Crunch here, and I get a defense drop, so I do 23 to Skarmory, which tells me a little bit about his spread. Now he goes Clefable as I taunt it, which is interesting. And I go Stun here, I do 51, so it reveals he's got some physical defense, but not like max at all, by any stretch of the imagination, I believe. Or I got a low roll, but I'm adamant, so Stone Edge doing 51, yeah, I think he's got some. And I just kill it with Crunch, and now he goes Skarm as I Stone Edge, he Body Presses. It's a 2-hit kill here, which is annoying, so I go to Victini here as he goes Weavile, which is interesting. I think he might have been expecting me to go for a taunt here. Or, yeah, I think he was expecting the taunt there to suffocate it. Or he was expecting the COFAGRIGUS to come in. No, because we wouldn't die to knockoff. He might have been expecting the Victini to come in, actually, so he could kill it with knockoff. But little did he know, I was a very, very bulky spread. So at 94%, it was very, very slim for him to kill. Even if he's adamant, I think like 94 and 96 was max damage. So, yeah, he does, in fact, go for the knockoff, and he's not Choice Band or Life Orb or Black Classes, so I live it. He does 91, which is just a little over average roll, but it's fine. It doesn't kill me. I kill it with Blue Flare, and now I know I can't lose the game with COFAGRIGUS, so I'm going to go right back to COFAGRIGUS, which already killed the Garchomp, and from here, since he's Sleep Talk, he can't actually beat me because either he's cursed with Mono Attack, or the rest he could do is like Sleep Talk Crunches, which isn't going to even come close to doing much damage to us with the Iron Defenses. So yeah, I just go for it here, Iron Defense. He goes Brave Bird on Skyrim, which means he's Brave Bird plus Body Press, which means coupled with Roost, he's either Spikes, no Spikes or no Defog, and he definitely wasn't like Toxic or Whirlwind, which could potentially threaten COFAGRIGUS. So yeah, I knew I was in the safe here. It only does in the clear here, not in the safe. I knew I was in the clear or safe here. Well, I can't talk. Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, you see, Brave Bird only does 11%. I think I Iron Defense again. No, I just Body Press. I take it out, and yeah, now the game's over. He goes Slack Off, but I actually kill it with Shadow Ball there, which means maybe I just rolled Min before, or maybe not. I don't know, but and then he just forfeits and he says, "Great bring," and thank you so much, Jake. Really one of the people I look forward to, and I know EMBA might not be like your biggest tour right now, your main focus, but it's really cool to play you in a serious game, and I'm definitely looking forward to not only playing against you in future tours, but maybe even teaming up and working together again sometime. Casting was a great experience, and yeah, so big shout out to my boy Jake. Thanks for playing me. I know advanced to 2-1, and COFAGRIGUS unironically becomes my best plus-minus differential because it hasn't died and it got 4 kills, and now it's +4. But yeah, so I win 4-0 over Jake in a game that was definitely closer than the score comes and says, but COFAGRIGUS had a phenomenal matchup given turn 1 working as it did. And yeah, big shout out to COFAGRIGUS. Choice Pen COFAGRIGUS is definitely going to get the thumbnail here. And if you enjoy draft content or the other content I make, especially the OU stuff, the metagame analysis stuff, and all these videos that I've been making pumping out lately, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. It really means a lot to me. And as a bit of a comment question, what are your thoughts on COFAGRIGUS, not only design-wise, but also just the practical effects of it? It's changed a lot over the generations. While it did lose Hidden Power, which hurt the Nasty Plot sets, Trick Room since, it gained Iron Defense and Body Press, particularly Body Press this generation, so it's changed over generations. Also gained, Toxic Spikes is a tool. Yeah, Mummy has a lot of applications. COFAGRIGUS is just a really cool lower tier Pokemon in my eyes. Let me know what you think of it, for sure. Alright guys, have a great day. This is Finch signing off now. Peace.